Hi everyone, this is Charles Caster and welcome to my coffee morning stream. Bienvenue à mon stream du dimanche matin. Prenez-vous une petite tasse de café. On va passer un peu de temps ensemble à discuter de différents sujets tous ensemble. J'espère que vous allez bien. Moi, ça va super. J'ai mon bot musical d'activer pour cette merveilleuse journée. J'espère que tout le monde va très bien. Moi, ça va super. I hope everyone is doing great. I'm doing okay. Uh, so today, what is the plan? I'm gonna kind of chat with you. We are gonna check some of stuff on the internet, on Kickstarter, on Twitter, stuff like that. And I'm gonna go react to some other food related documentaries. I think, and that's gonna be great. I hope everyone is doing okay. So, first thing first, GTA RP. I have been in discussion with some of the admin member of the original roleplay server, my French Canadian GTA RP server. Since Vision shut down, I have switched to another server with my character Nathan Lawrence, my lawyer, and I am in discussion to bring back George Matthew Perry, too. So maybe in the next few days, I'm gonna be able to play with Perry. Donc, je suis en discussion là, avec les admins pour peut-être pouvoir aussi streamer et jouer mon personnage du juge Perry sur mon nouveau serveur. J'espère que ça va pouvoir se faire. J'aimerais bien quelque chose. J'ai quoi que j'aimerais changer sur pas de chat. Mhm. Faut que je check. Yeah. Bon. Alors que je corrige ça éventuellement. J'aimerais ça avoir une petite animation, plutôt un petit filtre derrière mon chat. So I hope everyone is doing okay. So let's go and start our discussion. I hope everyone is doing great. So I did the play yesterday, some Looker, great game, but I then kind of destroy on stage 2 and mostly stage 3. Stage 3 is kind of a still didn't clear my stage 3. Didn't play a lot at the stage 3, but I want to clear it with maybe a fauna or bay. So yeah, that's kind of my plan for Oloker. But yeah. So first thing first, I'm gonna do a YouTube short on this. So guys, remember to follow me on my different platform, uh, YouTube, Twitch, of course. I'm also on TikTok with the short I publish on YouTube too. But mostly X, Twitter for my news. I have posted on my schedule of the week. So let's check my schedule of the week. Okay, we'll put that on screen. So right now, morning coffee. Tomorrow I'm going to be online. Tuesday I'm gonna do some GTRP in French. So mardi GTA 5 RP sur le serveur origine avec les persos DJ. Wednesday is gonna be the Blue Chair, a new show I'm gonna do. It's like a fireplace discussion type of show, a kind of talk show. Extremely chill. We are going to be outside with a small fire and on stream. So yeah, that's gonna be a cool show. This one gonna be in French with my friend Mr. Frank, who play some of my character in GTRP. He play Raymond, and George Burnham. He also play John Madden and formerly play Trixie Santonge and Shaq Bobovich. Donc, on va être avec Mr. Frank, qui joue plusieurs personnages, dont Raymond, et aussi Albiro, qui joue Théo Bordolo. So yeah, that's gonna be a kind of DOJ discussion on the RP. That's gonna be in French. Uh, so yeah, feel free to come watch this show. It's gonna be fun. Thursday, also a French stream. Uh, Next week is gonna be mostly in French. I'm sorry about that for people who just speak English. But feel free to come by and maybe ask some question in English. If I'm not in a RP scene, I can make a translation quite easily. So Thursday that's gonna be my second edition of Atheris Radio, my Final Fantasy 14 podcast, and that's gonna be with Forster, and we are gonna talk about Savage Raiding, some story about Savage Raiding, and for the last day of the week, I'm gonna go back samedi sur GTA 5 RP. Okay, so one of the big news of the day, it is that Giga joined a V Shadow. That's an awesome news for her. She made her debut yesterday. She is already quite active on Twitch and on YouTube, but now she's gonna be with Visual Agency. This is a debut for her in the agency, but it's not a new character. This is the same channel and before, same Discord channel too, same hashtag. So she gonna be right now with the agency Vishojo with some of the great talents. So maybe let's just check our new model. Let me bring that for you. Let's talk about the general. Yeah, she looked great. Seriously, she's gorgeous, she's fabulous, and I kind of want to be that high between her chests. But yeah, she looked fucking fabulous. So I'm happy to see her with Vishojo. That's gonna be a great for her and great debut stream on Minecraft with the other groups. Also in the VTubers news, we have Idle Carb that I still have maybe I think 2 days for the Ian Branch station. So that's great thing to do. So can't wait to see the new gen with Idle Carb. Also, what we got? Um, oh yeah, I think we got some other campus news that happened during the weekend, and the Anime Impulse. I think we got a temporary talks uh, with Axel Regis, uh, Beetle, and Flyan. That happened to the Anime Impulse. Also, I can see on Twitter that Rando restart streaming the the office worker on YouTuber have restart streaming. Is streamed both on Twitch and on YouTube with multi-stream. That's kind of rare. I think it is because it's not affiliate on Twitch, so doesn't have the same TOS. Because I think if I remember well, if you are an affiliate or partner, you can multi-stream on Twitch and on YouTube at the same time. But Randall can because he don't have any special contract with the platform. So that's great. Go watch him. Other news, I have seen that Koseki Bijou is doing really great right now. Let's just bring that some a bit. So yeah, I have heard that Koseki Bijou is doing kind of really great. I have seen Let me put that on stream. We got some news about the mouse watch Vtuber. Let's put that right there. I don't have the choice. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Like you can see, the must-watch female YouTube gaming streamer, we have Koyori in first place. This is the stat of the last week, based on hours watched. Uh, so this is what people watch more. But if the talent make long stream, the hours gonna be longer, because you can see at the bottom line, we have the number of hours the talent stream during that week. So we have in the first place Koyori, second Pekora, Inano, Koseki Bijou for the first English female gaming streamer. That she is in fourth place. That's kind of really great. I think it's third week, second week, I think, based on the date. Yeah, I think this was your third week of streaming. So to be at a place that's fucking great. We also have Mori, Corone on that leaderboard. That's great. Let me take some coffee. And I hope everyone is doing great on the chat. My name is Charles Caster, and I'm a French Canadian VTuber. And welcome to my morning show. We can take the coffee and talk shit with you. So, do we have any other great thing that happened into the VTubing world? Let me continue to check. Oh, turn-wise, kind of get out of the bed quite early this morning because it was the Italian Grand Prix. I like to watch Formula One, and today it was the race weekend at Monza. And what a surprise! Verstappen win the race first. Yeah, that's not a surprise. Uh, Kind of a great race, not the most interesting one. The start have been great. I have kind of been afraid to not be able to start my stream at 11 because we got some of an issue with Tsunoda, Yuki Tsunoda, the first lap, not really the first lap, but the formation lap. He got an issue with an overheating and an issue with the cooling of the car, so you have to retire the car. But in the middle of um, the road, kind of, and they are not being able to move the car outside of the racing track. So we got delayed start, the red flag the thing, and to remove the car. So yeah. So let me just check. For the top 10, we have Verstappen, Perez, Sainz and Leclerc. That kind of been a great battle between the two Ferrari drivers. We also have at fifth Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Norris, Alonso. We have Stroll at 14, Alonso at 9, Piastri 12, Ocon and Tsunoda retired the car. So yeah, that's a great result. But Verstappen is a beast this year. This year, Verstappen will win everything. I think he make this weekend a new record for the most biggest win strike in Formula One history. I think that the case. Let me just check that. Okay, I'm gonna go check this result. Yeah, and I think we are at 11 victory on 13 race. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 9 win in a strike. And for the Toyota race, was not first, it was Sagan in Azerbaijan, and this is yeah, the Agela. So yeah, he's gonna win this this thing for sure. He is gonna going to win the championship this year too. So we'll probably win the championship 3 year in a row. That's great. Oh, a new Pokemon is on my stream, so try to catch him. Time for some coffee. That's good. Well, yeah, everyone is doing great. So yeah, okay. So let's go. It's kind of tradition right now. I'm gonna go on a share screen, and I'm gonna go to check some stuff on Kickstarter. Let's just switch scene. So okay, we are now live on Kickstarter to watch some stuff. And right now don't have contribute to Ikrim right now. I'm just waiting for some information about one of my friends that may be able to find me the French version. But I'm gonna participate on this because I really like the project. Uh, so yeah, for people who doesn't remember, Ikrim is the dystopian steampunk TTRPG that's happening in kind of dark urban area where all the city are like on Iceland, and some of the sea is like an acidic thing like Mercury. Hi Babylone, salut Babylone, bienvenue sur mon stream. On commence la partie React de mes lives. On vient d'aller regarder ce qui se passait ailleurs. Et donc, on est en train de réagir. Let's do something a little bit up. Yes. C'est justement pour de la musique. Je vais passer à mon instrumental. Là. Donc, je parlais des crimes que je vais aller financer, mais on a parlé un peu de ce qui se passait sur du début de Giga hier chez Vishojo. On a parlé aussi de quelques autres choses. Mais j'espère que ça va super bien, Babylone. Donc, continuons notre aventure sur Kickstarter. So, oh, okay, something for storage. Oh, for mini. I don't have a lot of mini, but this thing looks kind of sick. This is modular, so that's great. Oh, and it is a 3D print project. Okay. I don't really do that type of a 3D project. I like the concept, but I don't. I prefer when I participate to a Kickstarter to have the thing. Oh, ma voix est un peu basse. Ok. Je vais essayer de corriger ça. Est-ce que c'est mieux? Parfait, merci. Combien ça coûte ça? Ouais, une cinquantaine de piastres. Yeah. Ah, ok. On a autre chose d'intéressant sur Kickstarter. Anything new? Okay, something could Call of Duty related. It's kind of card game. No, not for me. Okay. Okay, nothing from me right now that I found extremely interesting. Okay, so let's go check maybe on gaming, the gaming stuff. Okay. And for the people in chat, have you heard of something great on Kickstarter right now? Yeah. So yeah. Ah, but but something great is on Ulule. Okay. I don't know if in chat you are familiar with Gastronogeek. Gastronogeek is a French streamer, cooking book writer, chief, cook. He do a lot of stuff, mostly on Twitch. So go follow Gastronogeek after that stream. He do some react to some cooking show. It is kind of an inspiration for me. I really like the dude. And right now he is making a cooking book for Harry Potter. It is an unofficial cooking book with. Give me a sec. Sorry about that. So this is a kind of a cooking book in the Harry Potter universe. Yeah, something like that maybe. I don't really know what he's gonna put inside that, but yeah. I have some of his book, but I have one, okay. And this is a great book. Seriously, I like what you do. But I'm not sure I'm gonna go on the Ulule because this is kind of expensive to participate in Ulule Kickstarter in France. Kind of expensive for the shipping. So I may wait to be able to buy the book on Amazon or in a bookstore in Quebec. But let's kind of stop the music and go and watch the intro video for the project.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, je suis Thibaut Villanova, auteur culinaire, chef, créateur.
Okay, let's go check on YouTube. I want to be full size.
Créateur de contenu sur les réseaux sociaux, vous pouvez peut-être me connaître sous le nom de Gastronogeek. Mon métier, créer des recettes qui s'inspirent des univers imaginaires et vous apprendre à les réaliser à la maison. Je suis là aujourd'hui pour vous présenter mon nouveau projet de financement participatif sur Ulule, un livre de cuisine inspiré d'une saga magique que vous connaissez peut-être, La cuisine pour les sorciers. Voilà, La cuisine pour les sorciers, c'est un livre de cuisine qui s'inspire directement des livres et des films Harry Potter. Alors elle s'en inspire car c'est un livre non officiel, je préfère le dire. Mon équipe ni moi ne sommes affiliés aux ayants droit du projet. On va donc créer un livre qui se veut être un objet de fan pour les fans, avec beaucoup de pédagogie, beaucoup de cuisine, beaucoup d'informations sur l'univers. L'idée c'est d'apprendre à cuisiner mais aussi à découvrir cet univers qu'on partage et qu'on aime tant, et on le fera sans utilisation de logo, sans utilisation d'images officielles, en créant nos propres recettes et en les illustrant par nos propres photos et nos propres illustrations. Je préfère préciser que ce projet ne concernera que les gens qui participeront au projet de financement participatif. Seules les personnes qui commanderont leur livre sur Ulule pourront un jour le recevoir.
Ah merde.
Ça n'a pas vocation à sortir dans le commerce, c'est un...
Ah merde. Bon, ben écoute, je pense que j'aurais pas le choix de participer au LUL si je le veux, hein.
Un objet de fan pour les fans et vous avez 42 jours pour le commander. Pour vous parler un petit peu plus du livre, l'idée va être de créer quelque chose qui repousse les limites de ce que nous avons déjà fabriqué par le passé, mon équipe et moi. J'ai sorti plus d'une vingtaine de livres chez différents...
Oui, j'ai Gastronogeek 2, le retour, excellent livre. J'aime beaucoup la pédagogie, très pédagogue. Vraiment super livre. Il a fait Studio Ghibli aussi, on le voit ici. Il a fait du Zelda, il a fait de la cuisine d'anime. Vraiment, si vous ne connaissez pas Gastronogeek, allez voir ce qu'il fait.
Maison d'édition, aux éditions Hachette, édition Glénat, et on a fait aussi de l'auto-édition avec Ulule à l'occasion de la sortie de La cuisine dans Zelda, un autre ouvrage pour lequel on a vraiment repoussé pas mal de limites en termes d'édition. Bien là, on veut faire la même chose. Pour réussir ce projet, il va nous falloir lever 40 000 euros. 40 000 euros, c'est la somme pour que vous puissiez recevoir le livre dans son plus simple appareil, c'est-à-dire une version standard, classe, mais standard. Nous, on veut aller beaucoup plus loin. On vise des cieux beaucoup plus hauts qu'il va falloir atteindre à d'autres dragons, ou alors, grâce à à votre participation et à votre engagement dans ce projet. Vous pourrez découvrir sur la page Ulule toutes les contributions que vous pourrez commander et les différents paliers qu'on prévoit pour ce livre. Le but pour nous, c'est de réaliser un manuel scolaire que les sorciers qui sortent de l'école pourraient vouloir utiliser pour pouvoir faire la
C'est cool.
cuisine à la maison tout en s'inspirant des recettes qu'ils ont pu déguster alors qu'ils faisaient leur scolarité. Voilà, vous avez un maximum d'infos sur la page. On va essayer, mon équipe et moi, d'être disponible sur des streams très réguliers et puis dans la FAQ de la page. Vous avez 42 jours pour participer, pas un jour de plus. Je compte sur vous pour commander un livre, 2 livres, 3 livres, en offrir aux personnes que vous aimez, peut-être qui cuisineront pour vous en échange, c'est pas mal. En parler à un maximum de personnes autour de vous. L'adresse fr.ulule.com/recette sorcier, 42 jours pour réaliser cet objet qui n'arrivera que chez vous. J'espère que comme moi, vous avez hâte que ça arrive. Amusez-vous bien sur la page et n'oubliez pas de commander votre ouvrage. Salut!
Ça a quand même l'air cool. Ok, donc 192 pages. Mais ça, tu vas pas une bon. Ok. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ça a de l'air sick, ça. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, non, mais c'est quand même de quoi quand même de cool que je vais suivre comme projet. Yes. Ok, c'est intéressant. Ok, on va passer en mode maintenant React. J'ai quelques petites vidéos qui j'étais intéressé à regarder. Ça, on va arrêter la musique. Merci, Preza. Mais on va passer en mode un peu plus React sur différents types de contenus. J'ai vu une vidéo qui est sortie tout à l'heure d'une chaîne YouTube que j'ai commencé à suivre, qui avait une petite vidéo sur Sous-Sync à Semaine Gold de réagir cette semaine. Là, il vient d'avoir une petite vidéo sur Oshinoko.
23-year-old idol Fujisaki Nagi came out to a
Ok,
talk
donc c'est
show
juste un
saying
petit
that
short.
she's in fact a single mother. The J-pop idol continues on sharing that she has 2 kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. This was in response to the harassment she was getting from online stalkers. Many of these creeps were speculating that Nagi had kids and were even trying to figure out their actual names. But this is a true embodiment of, ma'am, this is a Wendy's moment, because Nagi's answer was responding to the talk show's topic of resolving sleeping issues. Truth bombs aside, my only question for Nagi is, do you have 20 chain locks on your door? 23-year-old idol Fujisaki Nagi came out to a talk show saying that she's in fact...
Ok, c'était pas mal. Ok, petite vidéo que je voulais réagir. Je voulais réagir à cette vidéo-là.
What is a feast?
Qui est par Townsend, qui fait des vidéos un peu de cuisine, mais sur les périodes historiques un petit peu plus là, anciennes, euh, fin 18e, fin 18e, 19e siècle. Donc, on va aller regarder ça. So, let's watch the Poor Prisoner Feast.
To a poor prisoner? Is it a
Hi,
heaping
Sonic.
bowl
Bonjour,
of
Sonic.
gruel? Is it a lobster straight from the sea? Or is it bread and water? Just enough to get you through the night.
So, we are now watching a video about prisoner food in the old time.
Prisons in the 18th century are one of the most grueling subjects we can study. I want a victory for this poor prisoner. We are going to make him a feast. I want to understand the real history of the 18th and early 19th century. And if we want to understand society in that time period, we have to know what they did with people who broke the rules. That is crime and punishment. What happens in the 18th and early 19th century is
Hi, everyone in the chat.
completely different than what happens today.
My name is Sharon Caster. I'm a French-Canadian Vtuber, and this is a bilingual stream, so I may speak French and English in the stream. Feel free to ask questions in both language in the chat. We are now reacting to a video, the Poor Prisoner Feast, about what the prisoner ate in prison, in jail, in the 18th and 19th century. So let's watch this.
Almost diametrically opposed to what we do today. Today, we
And remember
do
to
a
take
lot
a
of
coffee.
incarcerating people. We put them in prison for periods of time to punish them and to rehabilitate them. But that does not happen generally in the 18th century. People are punished for breaking the rules by fining them. They might whip them. They might put them in a pillory, in the stocks. They might transport someone, send them to a whole nother place. Maybe America in the 18th century. And
Australia.
In the 19th century
Australia.
to Australia.
Yeah,
And
Australia.
they would
Great
also
shot.
just plain execute them. That idea of rehabilitating somebody doesn't exist until we get to about 1800, and then there is a complete sea change. What does prison look like? Who is in prison in the 18th century? Well, people awaiting trial. Sometimes
Okay.
witnesses.
What the
have to be
fuck?
in prison in
What the fuck? Witness? Okay.
the 18th century. We have debtors being held in prison, and there's some fascinating studies about what's happening with debtors in the 18th century. They also have
So that part, it's gonna be great for the tolerance. We're gonna go, objection, don't put the debtor and the witness in jail, fucking asshole.
workhouses. Poor people who are destitute, they are put into a prison-like situation.
Okay.
And related to
Let's
this,
sit
we have
well.
prisoners of war. How they treat prisoners of war in the 18th century starts to bleed into and change the way they treat regular civilian prisoners also. A perfect
time for coffee.
example of this is what happens with prisoners of war during the American Revolution. The British started to hold American POWs in hulks, or decommissioned ships. They started to use
advertisement
this idea
time.
a few decades later in Great Britain, and they had prison hulks for regular civilian prisoners. They did this because they needed prisons quickly. They couldn't transport people away to North America anymore. It takes a long time to build a prison, and so they had these old ships. They could turn them into an instant prison. They were very hard to escape from, and they held people very well. There are two main drivers of this change from how we're punishing prisoners in this late 18th century time period. And one of those is really kind of driven by Quakers, especially in Pennsylvania. They had an idea that maybe this corporal punishment, the idea of executing prisoners or deporting prisoners, that they didn't think worked very well. They had the idea that they could rehabilitate prisoners.
Yeah.
That they could punish them in a prison setting, maybe giving them very small quantities of food, maybe holding them in solitary confinement, that this would change their idea and make them into better people. And also in Great Britain, we have this problem of them no longer being able to
deport or export their prisoners. And so they had to have a different way of dealing with them. So they started to hold them for longer terms in the prison ships and in prisons that they built. But how are these prisoners treated? How are they fed? That's what we're looking for here. What are prisoners eating? That can be very, very different in so many different settings. Early
Of
on
course.
in the 18th century, before we get to the idea of the punishment concept, and we're just holding people in prison, well, most people are held in county jails awaiting their
Okay.
trial. And if that's happening, then they're fed with basically whatever they can afford. Most people come in with a little bit of money, and the jailers are feeding them, saying, well, you know, we're not going to give you a ration. You're going to have to pay for your own food. So if you were rich in prison, you could eat as much as you want. And if you were poor, you might not have anything. Maybe a little bit of charity would come in and they would feed prisoners who didn't have any way of feeding themselves. It is very ad hoc. It's very, very changeable in that early 18th century context. As we move on and we're going to put people in prison as a punishment, then food starts to change a lot. And people can't buy themselves anything they want. The rules change and they say, no, you have to deal with just the prison ration that you're given.
Okay.
Sometimes there's some flexibility there. There's
Yeah.
certain prisons where each prisoner is given a ration of bread, maybe even something like hardtack, and then 1 penny a day. And they can spend that penny on, well, whatever meat or other kind of food that they want for that particular day. And in some prisons, they had a sutler, a single person who was in charge of that kind of meat or other kinds of foodstuffs. And that was very highly regulated so that the prisoners weren't cheated. They
Yeah,
created
kind of
this system
commissary
because
today.
earlier on in the 18th century, jailers were known to steal whatever they could from the people under their care. They were in charge of
Oh,
their
yeah.
food, and so they could charge as high a price as they like.
Of course, probably a
Food
lot
is
of
part
corruption
the
too.
punishment. At times, nothing but bread and water. That is the ration, and probably not that much bread. In fact, there
I
is
don't know.
a study that was done.
I
They
don't
were
know.
experimenting on the prisoners in Great Britain in the 1820s, and they said, these prisoners are getting too much food. Let's keep lowering and lowering the ration until we see what they can survive upon. And it was
Kind
a
of
couple
cruel.
of years into that experiment, and they had to call it off. Too many people were dying.
Ha,
I guess
of
they
course.
decided that maybe that wasn't a humane thing to do.
No,
Again,
no
prisoners
shit.
of war were kind of leading the way in this prison situation, and prisoners of war were given a standard military ration, but lower. So because they weren't working, people that were in charge of the prison figured that a prisoner of war could survive on maybe 2/3 or half of what a regular soldier would get. In theory, they were supposed to get that ration every single day. Now,
In
the
theory, yeah.
reality is I don't think anybody ever got what the rules said they were going to get. Here are the rations set down by the state of Pennsylvania, and we have
Where, of course.
Sunday, 1 pound of bread, 1 pound of coarse meat made into a broth. Monday, 1 pound of bread, 1 quart of
Moi, ça va super, ça va
potatoes.
bien.
Tuesday, 1 quart
Yeah.
of Indian meal made into mush. And then Wednesday, we get the bread and the potatoes. Thursday, the cornmeal again into mush. Friday, we have bread and potatoes. Saturday, we have the Indian meal into mush. So just 1 day a week, you've got something with meat in it, and the rest of the time, it's just a simple bread and potatoes or cornmeal mush. We also have some documentation for New York in 1800. This is the food for 250 prisoners. For breakfast, a peck of rye, 6.5 quarts of molasses, 130 pounds of rye and Indian bread, and then the fuel for cooking it. They have that as part of their budget. For dinner or lunch, 17 ox hearts, 7 ox heads, 6 lamb plucks, that would be like the guts, 1 peck of potatoes, 3 pounds of Indian meal, some salt, a little bit of pepper.
For the people who are asking, an ox is like kind of some beef.
Then 110 pounds of bread, maybe that's soft bread or hard bread, and some herbs. So they'd probably make one big sort of stew out of that, again for about 250 people. And then for supper at night, 36 pounds of Indian meal for mush, a little bit of salt, 61 pounds of bread, a little bit of molasses. That's it. It is painful to read many of these prison accounts. The prisoners at times were held in community, basically all in one giant room. And they would be given their food ration, or they would be given charitable clothing, and they would gamble these things away. And then they would be left in the most destitute situations. If we take all that we've learned here today and put it all together, I think we can make a feast for our prisoner. Now, if we look at this 1800 New York description of what they're feeding their prisoners, they take very, very inexpensive meat. So ox hearts, ox heads, and they make a very thick broth. Now, they could probably use any kind of inexpensive meat in the time period, maybe even a lobster. And we're just going to take a
because at the
standard
time
meat broth
lobster was a really inexpensive thing to cook. That was kind of thing for the poor. Oyster too, because it's kind of seen to be something dirty that people doesn't want to eat. I've kind of changed that. Have changed, of course.
That with a little bit of beef in there, and mix that with potatoes and then cornmeal and rye flour, and this will make a very, very thick and very inexpensive stew. That is probably the classic prisoner feast of 1800. So we're going to start our stew with our potatoes. I've sliced them up into chunks. Don't worry about peeling them. I'm sure they didn't in the time period. We're going to put those into our water and get them boiling so they start to get a little bit soft. I don't even know if they bothered with this step very much at all. They probably just chunked it all together and started to let it cook. But we're going to let our potatoes soften up, and then when they are soft, I'm going to put in our broth. And it does have just a little bit of actual beef in the bottom of it. In the time period, I mean, this might have been something as simple as pig's feet or whatever they had. After that's boiled a little bit and heated up, we can add the thickeners, and we're going to stir in a little bit of cornmeal, and then we're going to stir in a little bit of rye flour. And this will make it very, very thick and seem like an amazingly wonderful filling meal to any prisoner. No, we're not going to add any nutmeg, but we will add a little bit of salt and pepper. This topic is both painful to research and to talk about. But if we want to get something positive out of this, and we do, many, many people in this time period are looking for a better way. They want a more humane way or a more effective way of dealing with the people that are breaking the rules in society. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe they didn't find the best solution, but they certainly were trying. This is the Poor Prisoner's Feast, and it is very good.
That was a cool video. I'm gonna put that into the description, into the chat. My account sense. Something else I want to watch with you. It's something by Blue Jay. This guy make a video about history, and I have one I want to watch with you. It is this. Yeah, this thing is fucking dumb. I have watched a bit, but I want to watch that with you. This is the dumbest Russian voyage nobody talks about. And that's going to be really, really, really dumb. So let's watch this.
Iconic combinations out there, like spaghetti and meatballs, a sorority girl in a white Jeep, or depression and alcoholism. But like US presidents and convertibles, not everything can be a match made in heaven. And as much as Mother Russia would love to dominate the high seas, nearly landlocked nations and stellar navies don't exactly go hand in hand. But for all the Russian Navy's dismal, underwhelming, pathetic lack of glory in the early 20th century, it's always important to look on the bright side. Like how it gives me good YouTube content. So on today's episode, I'm going to learn you all about the misadventures of the Russian Baltic Fleet.
So let's watch the Blue Jay video.
It's the turn of the 20th century, and what better way to kick off a new era than
Expansion.
Russia is cold, which is great for things like stopping Nazis and badass TikToks, but not ideal for ports. Having your port turn to ice every winter is what those of us more versed in
God, this
nautical
guy's so
terms would
funny.
call not very cash money. The Russian Empire notices China has a pretty nifty port with, get this, warm water. However, there's this pesky little thing called a border in the way. But that's
Yeah, okay. I think it's important to say is that Russia is kind of landlocked. They have access to sea, but in winter, on this part maybe fucking cold. It didn't really have access to deep sea port for your navy, and that can be an issue if you want to go to war. The access of water, it's kind of an issue. I think they have a fleet near that in Vladivostok. I don't know if they have that port right now, but I think currently the Russian have a navy base in Vladivostok, in that area of the country. I'm not sure, and I think it is the place they have their nuclear submarine. But yeah, the situation with the Russian Navy is kind of a situation, and this is one of the reasons of the current war in Ukraine, in Crimea, with the Sebastopol base, because this base have a deep water port for their navy. So the fact Russian didn't have access to that port in 2014, and that's been kind of a cause of the current invasion, current situation, because that port can give access to the Mediterranean Sea and a lot of stuff. Otherwise, they have to use the Baltic, and I think this video is kind of about that situation.
water. However, there's this pesky little thing called a border in the way.
Yeah.
But that's okay. China isn't European. It's not a real country. So Russia takes control and gets the Qingdalisa in the port. Japan doesn't like what they see, so they meet with Russia and are all like, hey, vodka boy, invading China is our thing. But Russia won't share, leaving diplomacy dead in the water. But that's okay. The new DLC just dropped and everyone's just itching to try out their new toys. So the Japanese attack Port Arthur, kicking off the Russo-Japanese War. Fast forward a few battles and the Russians are losing pretty badly. So the Tsar authorizes quite the preposterous proposal of sending the Russian Baltic Fleet to reinforce the East. And you may be wondering, but Blue Jay, what's so preposterous about sending reinforcements? Well, kiddo, the Baltic part of Russian Baltic Fleet means it operates in, get this, the Baltic.
Yeah.
And as we learned earlier, boats don't like ice, so you can't go this way to Port Arthur.
Nope, you can't go that way. So that's a fucking big expedition. Go the other way around? Yeah.
Meaning the Tsar authorized a plan for an 18,000-mile journey around the world, which is 29,000 kilometers.
Yeah, by the Suez Canal. But yeah, at that time period, yeah, the fuel for the ship gonna be an issue, of course. Probably coal. And yeah, that's gonna be yeah, that's a fucking gross route. That's a big thing to do. You don't do that. Oh, I'm gonna go to the near Japan by the Baltic Sea. Oh, that's gonna be fun. No, that's not gonna be fun. On that ship of that time period. Yeah.
Or 1,140,480,000 gumballs. The voyage was also a logistical nightmare, as the Russians didn't have any holdings in Africa or South Asia to refuel along the way.
Okay, that's gonna be an issue.
Add that to the fact that the fleet spent months at a time frozen in port, so the crew of mostly uneducated peasants couldn't tell you the difference between a bowline knot and a porcelain pot. This group
holy shit. Okay, I start to understand what they say the dumbest. This story gonna be fucking dumb.
Of inexperienced conscripts is put under the command of Admiral Rozhetsvensky, a man so prone to anger that his staff made sure to keep a large supply of binoculars at the ready due to how often he would throw them overboard. But hey, fuck it.
Oh my god, I like that guy.
What better way to learn than a trial by fire, right? So they set sail on their epic quest to turn the tide of the war and bring glory to the motherland. And
For the
immediately
motherland,
runs
guys.
aground and a cruiser loses his anchor.
What?
They waited for the
Okay. Let me rewatch this.
by fire, right? So they set sail on their epic quest to turn the tide of the war and bring glory to the motherland. And immediately the flagship runs aground and a cruiser loses its anchor. While they waited for the flagship to
Can you lose that?
refloat, a destroyer forgot friendly fire was on and rammed into a battleship, prompting it to return for repairs. Don't worry, men, surely this can't be foreshadowing. As the fleet pushed on, a growing hysteria spread amongst the crew. They were afraid that at any second they'd be ambushed by Japanese torpedo boats. By Denmark. This is
The fuck? The fuck? By Denmark? The fuck? Okay, they are fucking dumb.
for the wars if you forgot. But the crewmen didn't have time to worry about things as frivolous as logic, so when two fishermen approached the fleet to deliver a message, they opened fire. The two fishermen survived the false alarm without a scratch thanks to the horrible standards of the Russian gunnery. As for their message, they informed Rear Admiral Rozhetsvensky that he had been promoted to Vice Admiral. I earned this.
Okay. They tried to kill the messenger. I'm gonna put the Vice Admiral. Yeah, that's legit. Great job, guys. GG.
This wouldn't be the
Best navy in the world.
only false alarm, as later another ship signaled that she was under attack by 8 Japanese torpedo boats, only to find out that there were 0 Japanese torpedo
Ow! How that shit can happen?
boats. There was just nothing there. Having survived the Baltic, our heroes
Woohoo!
made their way towards Britain, where they encountered a small group of fishing trawlers at Dogger Bank. But surely by now our skittish sailors have learned their lesson.
Ninjas, Australia!
While this sounds like the setup for a massacre, you forget our hero 20 minutes ducks as their nets in the waist. Keep it up.
Oh shit.
Torpedo boats, only to find out that there were
My bad.
0 Japanese torpedo boats. There was just nothing there. Having survived the Baltic, our heroes made their way towards Britain, where they encountered a small group of fishing trawlers at Dogger Bank. But surely by now our skittish sailors have learned their lesson.
Ninjas, Australia, this bullshit!
Chaos ensued as the Russians laid down hellfire upon the unsuspecting fishermen. The Russians are going bonkers. Some run around the deck aimlessly waving cutlasses to repel imaginary boarding parties, while others just
The fuck I'm watching? The fuck happened?
cuddle up on the deck with life jackets, accepting their demise. Keep it up, men! These Japanese have horrendous aim, Igor. We haven't even taken a hit. But hey, at least this time we made sure they weren't fishermen first. We're shooting at fishermen, aren't we? Definitely a possibility, sir.
Shit. Holy shit.
Well, at least we didn't fire on our own ships, killing a sailor and Russian Orthodox priest. The British
Oh my god. They fucking do friendly fire attacking fishermen. Oh my god. Oh my god. They are fucking killing me. This is so stupid.
trawler fleet were sitting ducks as their nets in the water prevented a hasty escape, and the Russians fired at them for 20 minutes before realizing their mistake. While this sounds like the setup for a massacre, you forget our heroes are about as effective as a guy holding a fish on Tinder, sinking only one trawler and damaging 2 of their own ships. The battleship Oriole really
Damaging 2 of their own ship. The ratio is like 1 ship versus 2, 1 ship sink versus 2 ship damage of your own fleet versus fishermen that don't attack back. Fuck.
captured the spirit of a TikTok pickup artist, reportedly shooting 500 shots without scoring a single hit. 2 fishermen and 2 Russians died in the mayhem, so at least the survivors can brag at the local pub that they tied with the Russian Navy. This event became known as the Dogger Bank incident and nearly ignited a war between Russia and Britain. The Brits
Holy shit. At that time period, Britain have the best navy in the world. And if you already in a war with Japanese, war that you are losing, and if you go to the other side of your the continent in a war with Britain, Russia will be fucking destroyed. So I'm sure what they are gonna do, and let me pre-shot, Britain will close the access to the Suez Canal because the Suez Canal is controlled by Britain into retaliation for this incident, and that's gonna be a big issue if this place is a no-no for the Russian Navy. and you have to go all the way around Africa, this is gonna be a fucking big issue.
Just settled for revoking their access to the Suez Canal, forcing the Russians to make a slight tweak in their course. The slow, coal-powered fleet made its way towards Africa, attacking more civilians and cutting underwater telegraph cables along the way. They met up with some German supply ships
Okay. Yeah.
to refuel due to the aforementioned lack of African holdings to make port. What nice friends, those Germans. I'm sure their relationship will last.
Lol.
Africa's pretty big,
Lol.
almost as big as my self-loathing, so they took on double loads of coal and kept giant piles of the stuff just sitting on deck. Definitely the kind of thing to land you an EPA audit. But it's not like any sailors were going to die from black lung, except for the ones who did. Morale is low, so the Russian crew decided
Oh my god. Of course. This journey is a joke. Seriously, this journey is a fucking joke.
to lift their spirits by treating themselves to the exotic pets of Madagascar. Alright, men, you all can. Hey, Igor, stop sniffing glue.
See this dude sniffing too. Oh god. A trip to Madagascar with this kind of loser. Yeah. In talking about trip I'm about in Madagascar, let's check a Pokemon is now on the stream.
Just like, buddy, you all can go to shore and pick out one thing to bring back with you. Nothing too crazy, like snakes or crocodiles.
Literally,
Motherfucker,
oh,
what did I
fucking,
say? Sir,
the fucking fat crocodile and snake.
can explain. Watch it throw back the shot at Tito's. The ship became a floating zoo as the crew brought on a bunch of animals to roam the deck freely, including a crocodile and a venomous snake, which apparently took a liking for vodka. Panic
What the fuck? They gave vodka to a snake? These guys are fucking crazy. This Navy is crazy. But GG to the guys who have balls to give a shot of vodka to a snake. GG.
followed shortly when the snake wrapped itself around guns and bit a commanding officer. One sailor gifted the admiral a parrot, which soon took after his rather extensive vocabulary of Russian curses. The flagship soon became overrun with chameleons who would frequently go missing due to their ability to seamlessly camouflage. Hey Igor, have you seen Comrade Camo? I can't find the little guy anywhere. No, I don't think so. Have you seen him private?
Lol.
Yeah, I don't think he's
Oh
seen
my
him either.
god,
But a
this
good
thing
zoo
is
isn't
magic.
complete without an underwater exhibit. And luckily for them, the cooling plant on their refrigeration ship broke down, forcing them to dump all their meat into the ocean and giving them a nice following of sharks. At one point, the
Nice.
fleet was holding one of many funerals for a sailor who died of illness. During the ceremony, the Kamchatka fired a gun salute.
That's cool.
Excellent work, gentlemen. Hey, say, you boys did make sure to load blanks, right?
Oh
Yes,
no!
Sir. Yeah.
Oh no! They don't chain with live ammunition during a salute.
Igor, you're looking kinda pale there, buddy. After some more shenanigans, like foiling a mutiny and receiving a shipment of fur boots and coats instead of ammo, Admiral
Nice.
Rozhetsvensky realized that they were approaching Japan. Ah shit, that's right, I didn't train them. So he decided to run some gunnery practice on a stationary target. Miraculously, our group of misfits managed to score a single hit on the ship towing the target. But hey, potato potato.
Okay.
At long last, the
Shit's
Baltic
happened.
fleet closes in on Japan, approaching the Tsushima Strait during
Okay.
the night. The fleet
We are ready for the battle. Okay. I hope that's gonna go well for them. Yeah. Okay, that's totally going to go well for them. Oh my god, they are such a loser.
their lights to maintain stealth, all except for the Orel, which, as a hospital ship, kept them burning in accordance with the rules of war.
Yeah, okay. This is normal. Okay. I think this is a real Japanese ship. Let's see what happens.
The Orel comes upon a Japanese ship in the dark, and finally, after an extensive list of false alarms attacking fishermen and merchants alike across half of the high seas, they come across an actual Japanese vessel
Ta-ta-ta!
and determine it to be Russian. So they use their lights to communicate with it.
What?
Across an actual Japanese vessel and determine it to be Russian.
So, the first Japanese thing they actually see. Oh, that's gonna be Russian. We have shot everything in the IC that was not Russian, thinking this was Japanese. And find the Japanese stuff. Oh, that must be Russian.
So they use their lights to communicate with it.
Hey, be careful of the other Russian vessel around me. We are sneaking up on the Japanese in the dark. Don't tell anyone. Smiley. Oh my god. They tell to the Japanese, oh, we are going to attack the Japanese by a surprise attack. They, oh my god, they tell the enemy what they are doing. Oh my god.
The Battle of Tsushima ensues. Will our gallant sailors hold their own against the Japan? The Baltic fleet was decimated. 4,000 Russians die with
Holy shit. Holy shit. That's bad. That's fucking bad.
an additional 7,300 taken prisoner, compared to roughly 100 Japanese deaths. This effectively ended the war, marking the first time in history that an Eastern power defeated a European one. Way to go, buddy. Let's add that one to the scoreboard.
Woohoo!
Oh dear. So, in conclusion, the Russian Baltic Fleet's odyssey around the world is a tale full of shenanigans and blunders, with our troublemaking peasant crew racking up quite the body count of innocent civilians and friendlies before seeing an actual enemy. And yes, while they may have attacked ships from practically every global power, disabled cities' communication grids, killed fellow sailors with gross negligence of safety practices, nearly ignited a major European war, and were about as accurate as Helen Keller playing laser tag, they also taught a snake to drink vodka. 9 out of 10 stars.
9 of 10. Perfect. Perfect score, guys. Wow. Oh, they have another video about the Olympics. Let's watch this.
With roots spanning 2,800 years to ancient
This one is really low.
Greece, the Olympics have become the pinnacle of athletic achievement, with the awarding of a gold medal being seen as internationally equivalent to winning a Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, or my parents' approval. The world's best from all walks of life meet to prove their excellence in humanity's greatest cities. Athens, Paris, St. Louis. Yep, the third Olympic Games and America's first outing as host took place in St. Louis in 1904. But early
St.
20th
Louis,
century
okay,
St. Louis doesn't quite have the sex appeal of Athens or Paris.
Oh, no.
So how does one spice it up a bit? That's right, rat poison, brandy, and human experimentation.
What the fuck happened?
Originally, the 1904 Games were to be held in Chicago, but that same year, the World's Fair was celebrating the centennial of the Louisiana Purchase in St. Louis. What would be the world's largest fair to date had fascinating exhibits like the first ever X-ray machine, the radio phone, and all your favorite different looking people on display. Remember kids, you can't have a fair without a healthy dose of racial superiority. Even with indigenous mud throwing contests being the crowd drawers they are, they didn't want to have to compete for spectators. So they threatened to overshadow the
Okay, give me a sec, I just misclick. Let's go back.
for different looking people on display. Remember kids, you can't have a fair without a healthy dose of racial superiority. Even with indigenous mud throwing contests being the crowd drawers they are, they didn't want to have to compete for spectators. So they threatened to overshadow the Olympics with their own sporting events, and successfully moved the Olympics to St. Louis. The first debacle in the clusterfuck that was the 1904 Olympics was the issue of location. With them lazy right boys not having double-decker Boeing 747s out yet, for foreign athletes, getting to St. Louis involved a lengthy boat trip, followed by a 1,000-mile train ride. Combined with the fact that the Russians and Japanese were having a disagreement at the time, a measly 12 nations showed up.
Yeah, that's the... Effectively, a disagreement, and let's be honest, total one-way destruction of the Russian Navy by the Japanese.
With only 62 of the 651 athletes hailing from outside of North America.
Woohoo!
But the eye of the storm centered on the iconic marathon event. The 1904 Olympic Marathon was more freak show than showpiece, ironically more fitting for the fair-like atmosphere than a prestigious sporting event.
Holy shit, that's gonna be funny. We have meme.
Instead of the typical morning start time, this one was held in the afternoon, where temperatures soared to 92 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity in the 90s. This means the race took place with a heat index of a scorching 135 degrees Fahrenheit. For context, ideal marathon conditions are around 41 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
That's like replacing your CPU cooler with a tungsten arc welding torch. Only 32 runners from 4 nations participated in the race. A few were experienced runners, having won or placed in past marathons, but the majority were misfits. Of these misfits, we have 2 South African Tswana tribesmen visiting St. Louis for a certain World's Fair exhibit, who ran the race barefoot. 10 Greeks who had never run a marathon a day in their lives, and Cuban national Felix Carbajal, a former mailman who demonstrated his running skills throughout Cuba to raise money. He was even reported to have ran the entire span of the island. Once he raised enough, he bought passage to the US and arrived in New Orleans. What's this quaint little contest? Dice. 1 in? Oh, well, I suppose I could spare $1 or 2.
Dame los dados.
Upon arrival, Felix lost all of his money on a game of dice, forcing him
Nice.
to hitchhike and walk his remaining journey to St. Louis. Felix approached the starting line in a long sleeve shirt, long dark pants, street shoes, and, naturally, a beret. Hey, when you're 5 feet tall and amongst marathoners and all their short shorts thigh glisten in glory, you have to stand out somehow. A fellow Olympian felt bad and offered him scissors to cut his pants, making him some improvised shorts that bring a smile to any redneck's face. The starting pistol was fired, and the runners embarked on a course that one official called, quote, the most difficult a human being was ever asked to run over. The track consisted entirely of dirt roads and fractured stone, providing difficult footing, with 7 hills ranging from 100 to 300 foot verticals and long ascents. Running on public roads also made the race somewhat of a game of Frogger, with runners having to dodge trains, wagons, streetcars, and dog walkers. Not even the air was safe, with cars driving alongside the runners, kicking up dust for them to inhale. Uphill running, dusty mouth,
The fuck is that
scorching heat.
race? Seriously?
I could really
That's
go
a
for some
total
water.
shit show.
What? Water? What are you, a pussy?
Meet James Sullivan, chief organizer of the Olympic Games. One day, James pondered a question we all have from time to time. What would happen if I forcibly dehydrated someone? To study the effects of purposeful dehydration, James decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, planning a marathon with only a single water station on the course. A dirty well.
What the fuck? Oh my god. This is going to be a massacre.
11 miles in. That gave you dysentery. At the start of the race, Fred Lors
Hi
took
for everyone who is new in the chat. My name is Sean Gaster. I'm a French-Canadian Vtuber and I'm reacting to a video of Blue Jay, history worst Olympic marathon in the world. Okay, so he's in a nutshell.
the lead, with Thomas Hicks passing him shortly after. One of the barefoot South Africans was chased a mile off course by wild dogs. John Lorden began vomiting profusely and gave up. William Garcia was found collapsing on the brink of death after coughing up blood in the middle of the track, hemorrhaging with a ripped stomach lining and dust-lined esophagus. Interesting. Meanwhile, Felix was actually making good time, despite pausing to talk to every spectator along the track. During the race, Felix casually remembered he hadn't eaten in the past 40 hours. He then saw people in a car with some peaches and asked for one, to which they said no. Hey, the fuck! Later on in the race, he stumbled upon an orchard and ate some apples, which then turned out to be rotten. He then started cramping and vomiting, so he decided to lay down and take a nap. Despite all odds and setbacks, Felix would actually go on to finish 4th. 9 miles in, Fred Lors called it quits after cramping up, hitching a ride to the finish line and waving at bystanders and runners as he passed. Thomas Hicks started to show signs of extreme exhaustion 10 miles in, and begged his coach for water. But his coach, believing the only people who ever needed water were Aquaman and pussies, settled for sponging his mouth out with some warm distilled water. Hicks really started to break down 7 miles from the finish, which is where Dr. Charles Lucas sprung into action, giving him a mixture of strychnine and egg whites. Some call it a performance enhancer, some call it rat poison. I say it's 1904, so what's the difference? Keep in mind, early 20th century doctors were little more than licensed murderers. The car Fred Lors was hitching broke down 19 miles in. Having recovered from his cramps, he decided to pull a sneaky and rejoin the race, passing doped-up Hicks and later the finish line in first place. Those at the stadium didn't know about Fred's disqualification, so they hailed him as the winner, and Fred played along.
Yeah, we have a
even went so
cheater.
far that Teddy Roosevelt's daughter,
cheater.
Alice Roosevelt, took a picture with him and placed a wreath over his head. She was lowering the gold medal over his neck when a spectator stepped in. Hey, yeah, that guy was disqualified. You suck.
You're fucking disgraceful.
What's this race? Let's beat his ass.
Okay, so I may have made that part up. I have an imagination, sue me. The cheers turned to boos as Fred tried to play it off as a joke, claiming that he never intended to go through with it. Meanwhile, Hicks, who had lost motivation when Fred passed him, painfully picked up his pace after hearing of his disqualification. However, recently poisoned Hicks started to turn gray and limp, so they dosed him again with strychnine and egg whites. So you know how when you're watching the Olympics and think to yourself, these sports have a serious lack of alcoholism? Well, Hicks' team thought so too, so they washed the lethal drug down with some brandy. Why drink water when you can have
What the
ethanol?
fuck?
Hicks started running mechanically,
In
like a
an
well-oiled
extreme
machine.
heat wave, oh
His
my
face
god.
sunk, his eyes grew dim, his palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.
This
20
film is a
miles
joke.
in, Hicks started hallucinating, firmly believing he had another 20 miles to go. He begged his team for something to eat, but they just gave him more brandy instead.
Yeah, more
Boys didn't
brandy.
shit-faced. Just like my 2 a.m. Taco Bell runs, Thomas Hicks swinged and shuffled his way over the final stretch, with his trainers carrying him across the finish line, where he received the gold medal. Only 14 of the original 32 runners finished the race.
Oh my
The
god.
worst finish ratio in Olympic history. Here's a graph of gold medal marathon times throughout history. And here's Hicks's time, a full 29 minutes and 8 seconds slower than the second longest winning time in history, and almost 45 minutes longer than the slowest finisher in the 2016 Olympic marathon.
Oh my
It
god.
took 1 hour and 4 doctors for Hicks to feel well enough to just even leave the stadium, having lost 8 pounds over the course of the
Holy
race.
shit.
So if Sullivan's experiment taught us anything, it's one hell of a weight loss program. So, in conclusion, while the 1904 Olympic Marathon featured the first 2 black Olympic athletes and a Blue Jay-approved amount of alcohol, it also resulted in multiple near fatalities and resembled less of an expertly organized event and more of an Ed, Ed, and Eddie scheme. 2 out of 10 stars.
Yep. Yep. That's something. So guys, let's go.
Fashion is
I
riddled
will
with
give you
rules
the
that
link to the Blue Jay video. More like the Blue Jay channel. But yeah, that's something great. Let me check if I can. I can find something other to watch before ending the stream. Maybe one more video. Did I have something cool to watch? Okay, let me give me a sec. Okay, let's check a video about globe with the map of the world. Why banner by globe are so expensive by insider business? So let's check this, and that's gonna be the end of the stream after that.
If these artisans make a single mistake laying a flat map over this giant custom sphere, they'll have to start the entire process over. The slightest twitch of the finger can cause a rip, a costly hiccup at Bellaby & Co. globe makers, where the world's most expensive globes are made. A 22cm mass-produced globe can cost about $25, while a Bellaby globe of the same size can sell for over $3,800.
That's expensive.
And prices can reach 6 figures for Bellaby's largest globes. That's partly because artisans customize these globes entirely in-house, including hand-painting the globe and crafting the base it sits on. So, what makes these globes worth waiting up to 2 years to get? And why are they so expensive?
If someone asks why it's so expensive, I invite them along to the studio and show them around and show them the processes we go through at every single level. When they leave, they fully understand why it takes so long.
Peter Bellaby founded London's Bellaby & Co. globe makers in 2008, and today it's one of the only studios in the world making globes by hand.
Holy shit.
The smallest globe it sells, the 12cm diameter pocket globe, can set you back almost $2,000. Its largest, the Churchill, has a 127 centimeter diameter and costs over $94,000.
Oh, shit. That expensive.
Since 2008, Bellaby has sold around 5,000 globes, ranging from maps of the Earth to the constellations and even the moon. 3 of those were featured in Martin Scorsese's Hugo, including a 40 centimeter celestial globe. Production is limited because making a globe from scratch, entirely by hand, is no easy feat. At Bellaby, it requires cartographers, globe makers, painters, and woodworkers. And the price of these globes is largely a reflection of how many the team can make without compromising quality. The attention to detail starts with the spheres. Most sizes are made from fiberglass for its strength and durability. But what's most important is that it's a perfect sphere.
Yeah, it must be so difficult to be something perfect.
Any deformation can result in uneven weight distribution, which affects how the globe spins. If that happens, Bellaby has to fix it by attaching a counterweight. Then there are the maps themselves.
Yeah.
The cartography department focuses on accuracy and fulfilling the customer's imagination, like adding the Silk Road or the spice routes.
Okay,
They highlight the places where they came from and where they might have immigrated to and where they got married and where their ancestors are from.
But Bellaby doesn't just customize its maps for creative or sentimental reasons. The details also affect where the company can sell its globes.
For instance, in India, I can actually go to prison for 6 months if I ship a globe to India that doesn't have the correct border between India and Pakistan.
And if any territories shift or new borders are drawn, Bellaby's newer iterations will reflect that.
Yeah.
When the cartographers are done with all the necessary specifications, they print the map onto oblong strips called gauze. Now it can be handed off to globe makers like Eddie.
So with globe making, it's all about applying 12 or 24 gauze onto the sphere. So it all starts with cutting those gauze very, very precisely with a scalpel.
Makers have to cut the gauze to within 0.1 of a millimeter, so there are no gaps or overlaps when they're applied.
You could very easily cover an entire country based on the amount that you've extra overlapped because you've cut a little bit too much excess.
Eddie traces the latitude and longitude lines onto the sphere as guides.
Okay.
Then, he wets the gauze and glues them onto the surface, gently flattening them by hand. Even the slightest tension or miscalculated movement can cause a rip or wrinkle.
Shit. Check the precision.
When globe makers do make mistakes, they have to scrape off and replace the offending gore. If they're lucky, they'll only need to remove one, but sometimes the team has to redo the entire globe,
Holy shit.
including the cartography.
A lot of the times it does result in the globe being restarted, and that can even be at the final stage just before it's being packaged. While that doesn't happen often, when it does, everybody's upset, but it's just the only way that we can maintain a really high quality standard.
Correctly setting a single gore onto the massive Churchill globe can take an hour. Aside from size, factors like the temperature in the room or the consistency of the glue affect application time.
This thing is
the globe
massive.
maker has to account for all of this, including their own breathing.
I found that cold showers actually help a lot with controlling breath, and that's really improved my making actually.
It takes up to 18 months for trainees to learn the most basic aspects of globe making, and much longer to master it. Eddie has been on the job for 6 years. When the gauze are finally set, the globe is ready for the painters, like Isis.
Okay, painting, jumping.
She can bring the Earth, the Moon, or the constellations to life. She shades in the coastlines, mountain ranges, political borders, and any illustrations or customizations.
The difficulty on this stage is actually making all these gores the same color and consistent. It's almost like if you're making a painting, but you have 12 different canvases, and there has to be a continuation.
Some globes highlight different ocean depths, so Isis has to paint in ocean trenches in their exact location. She works deliberately, being careful not to paint neighbouring countries the same shades, or let any watercolour run from one gore to the next. That's another mistake that risks having to start the whole globe all over again. At the woodshop, artisans are working on a base for the nearly complete Churchill globe. It's all done in-house by a dedicated team of 4. They engrave, chisel, and stain the wood based on customer specifications.
This one
At
is
every
great.
stage of the globe making process, Peter encourages his team to take as long as they need.
It's very important that we spend the time that is required to make every single globe as best as it can be. It's finished when it's finished and when it's ready.
The cost of labour accounts for most of the price, since it usually takes 4 to 6 months to complete a globe and ship it
Yeah.
out. But Bellaby also pays attention to the materials it uses. The inks it uses for printing can last between 80 and 200 years in gallery conditions. The origin story of Bellaby globes is just as peculiar as the globes themselves. In
Okay, let's learn about
2008,
history.
Peter decided to make a globe for his father's 80th birthday. He went through hundreds of globes and thousands of pounds before he was happy with the result.
In about 2011-12, I sold my house to fund, because this is a bottomless pit of money. I used to go down to the municipal dump every 2 weeks with an estate car full of trial globes.
And once he got it right, he wanted to keep making them. But Peter didn't expect the warm reception these boutique globes received. The company was recently commissioned to work on a globe for the Louvre.
Holy
And
shit.
its largest globe has a
That's
waitlist
cool.
of 2 years. Peter attributes this demand to the rise of consumer interest in handmade products. The global handicraft market size reached $680 billion in 2021 and is expected to exceed $1 trillion by 2027. Bellaby & Co. too has seen this consistent rise in demand for its handmade globes. The company says it turns multi-million-dollar revenues year after year,
Good for them.
and it expects this to continue even at high price points for its niche products.
What I love so much about what we do is that it is so deeply personal. You can tell someone's whole life story in it.
Great video by Insider. So, thank you for being here with me today. Had a great coffee and a great morning chatting and watching video with you. So, I'm gonna end the stream now. Hope everyone is gonna be able to have a great day. That was Charles Lancaster, and take care, everyone. See you soon for another stream. Like I said, most of my stream this week we are going to be French. We are going to do GTRP, some chatting about a roleplay with some player of Vision, podcast on Final Fantasy 14. So that's gonna be more like a roleplay and discussion week. So remember to follow me on my different social, all the link in the description and bio of my Twitch. So see you soon, guys. Take care.